Thank you guys for joining so much. Just a brief introduction. My name is Jarrett. I'm director at WebMechanix, and I'll be the MC for this session today. A couple quick housekeeping items. We want to make sure that your questions are answered today, so please thread up, use that chat. We're going to have a section of this session where we go through and answer all your questions. At that point, you'll be able to come off of mute too and join in and ask. But yeah, very excited to present what we have for you guys today. I'm hoping that this is valuable for you and provides a useful takeaway that you can bring to your clients to drive some results in 2023. Being 2023 being what it is with budgets and all that, we want to give back to the community. So without further ado, our presenter, Josh Muskin, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Jarrett. And thank you everybody else for coming. We have done many a webinar in our day and a lot of meetups. And we, over the last 10 years, have worked with a ton of fractional CMOs and felt especially true given forecasting for the economy and how everyone is pulling budgets back, that we at least wanted to spend a little time and try to give something back, give you some things that you can go and do on your own, hopefully make your life easier, make your clients feel a bit more loved, and hopefully help some results too. So like Jared said, add your questions in the chat. If there are urgent ones that require clarification, we'll address those right then and there. Otherwise, we'll take a pause a little further into this just to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. But just hoping to spend a little time today giving back and giving something hopefully that's useful and valuable to you and the people that you work with. Give me 1 second. I will share a screen. Can everybody see my presentation? Single thumbs up will do. Awesome. So who am I and why should you care? I am the VP of Sales Marketing WebMechanix. I've been with WebMechanix since 2011, so coming up on 12 years this September, which has been super fun. Over that time, worked with about 1,000 companies, including a couple within the Fortune 50. And my silly fun fact for today is I'm down to 42 seconds on this little fidget toy. So that's a separate webinar. What we're going to cover today, I want to make sure that this content is for you and certainly save you 55 minutes in the event that we wildly off-targeted anyone in here. So I'll go over this content is perfect for you if, and some statements, what our goal for today is and what we hope to provide you. We'll talk about what we think or what we mean when we say a play for the 3 that we're going to discuss. We'll go through the 3 that have fun little names for us. And then I'll give you a little information about 2 extremely optional things if you want to learn more about a partnership that we've done with fractional CMOs in the past and how that could benefit you, and then a little special gift just for everybody who happened to come today. Cover all of it at the end. In between 6 and 7 is where we will break for questions or clarifications on any of the plays that we go through, since that's kind of the meat that we really want to make sure you get out of this.
And yes, we'll be sending the deck out to everybody tomorrow and the recording as well.
So this content is for you if any of the following are true. You work for one or multiple clients as an acting CMO or marketing leader. You're accountable to revenue or monetary results, not simply just a lead number or count. You're being asked to do more with probably less budget, particularly this year. You want more arrows in your quiver for things you can present both in a sale to a new prospect or a current client that you're working with, or you're just kind of stuck in any particular situation. You want an idea or two that might kind of get you moving or out of the usual day-to-day. So if any of that sounds relevant to you, stick around. The rest of this should be too. Our goal for you is to help you bring value to your current clients, add to your grab bag of strategies, improve your client results quickly and sustainably in ways that we have found to be very repeatable. And as a bonus, which we'll touch on at the end, if we can help you acquire more clients for yourself too, happy to do that. So too much scrolling. 3 winning plays for today. But before we get into what exactly they are, what is a play? What do we mean by that? What does that mean to us? The way that we define it in this context is it's a collection of marketing actions or tactics that are repeatable and produce a consistent set of outcomes. These are things that when new clients come to us, we can quickly identify if these are relevant to them and deploy them very quickly to get them some immediate results, kind of get them that warm and fuzzy feeling that we know what they're doing. They're going to get something good out of working with us. And then we can kind of work to build the greater strategies as we move on. But we have chosen these 3 because they do fit that mold the best of most consistent results generated, and they are on the easier side of deployment for small teams. So anyway, what are they? The first one we have eloquently named the bouncer. And this really has a goal, one of two goals. One is to get junk leads that are in your CRM that are clogging up your pipeline or wasting your sales team's time out, but more importantly, to keep them from coming in the first place. And so how do we do that in a way that's automated? The way that we'll do it, we'll go into some details. We use a strategic set of filtering that on your lead forms that will actually increase the number of high quality leads that you get without having to adjust things like targeting or budgets or landing pages or messaging in your ads and your landing pages that you have running. Some pros to this strategy and some things that you should know. So the pros are it's going to dramatically increase your lead quality, which is certainly subjective to what your clients are. It's also going to cut your cost per deal or cost per opportunity by a significant margin. And if done correctly, it'll actually help sales close a higher percentage of the leads that they are given. And it keeps them from having to deal with the low quality leads that they like curse marketing for bringing them in the first place. The things to know, though, the most important one probably for vanity's sake is that it's going to inflate your cost per lead. So even though your cost per sale or your cost per opportunity might go down, because we're getting rid of some leads that aren't the ones we want anyway, you will actually see your CPL go up, and that's normal and okay, given what we're trying to do on the back end of that process. It will require some edits to your lead form. It will require a little bit, not too much, of some technical tracking skills in something like Google Tag Manager or whatever you're using to fire conversion events to things like Google Ads, Google Analytics, what have you. And the speed of the impact that this can have on your client is pretty dependent on the amount of leads that you get. The more, the better, but even small amounts will work over time. So what does this actually look like when it's deployed? So at its simplest, what we're doing is we're adding a qualification question, really no more than two, but at least one, to your core form. So this could be a single form that you have across the whole site, like a demo meeting form, something like that. They could be forms that you have on individual paid landing pages. But what we found working with companies is that almost every company has one or two questions they can ask. The answers to them are very binary, and they give them a sense of if that prospect is or is not capable of working with them. So two examples I have on screen here to illustrate this. One is the wealth management division of Motley Fool. The other is national debt relief for debt consolidation, et cetera. The Motley Fool example, they will only work with individuals who have investments of $500,000 or more. And on the national debt relief side, they will only work with individuals who have more than $10,000 in debt. So even though there are options shown on this form that are not qualified, so less than that 500K or less than that 10,000, there also are options for basically is qualified or greater. So functionally from the user perspective, all that's changing is that they now see this question and they will answer it because you'll make it required and they have to. But what does that actually do for you on the ad buying side of things? So if you were to simply just add this question and do nothing else, this is probably how you are communicating leads and conversions to your ad platforms. You have traffic coming from Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. User comes in and they submit your form, and you do two things. You add them to your CRM, could be Salesforce, HubSpot, doesn't matter. And you're also communicating to the ad platform, hey, we got a lead, fire a conversion. That's what happens 99% of the time when clients come to us for the first time. What we are proposing that you do is make this an if-then. So same beginning, they come from the ad platform, they see the form, they answer that qualifying question because it's now required on your form. And now you get this decision tree. If they selected something that means they're not qualified, so in this example, it was less than 500,000 or less than 10,000, they say something that's not qualified, they can still submit the form and they will still go to your CRM. That way, if it's one of those off chances, like, oh, actually they are because of weird situation, you can still handle them. They don't get kicked out. But you'll notice if they do answer the qualifying question, I'll say correctly, and they submit the form, this is where you're sending them to CRM and you're firing that conversion, which you're not doing for the not qualified folks. Now, the benefit of doing this is your platforms like Google, Facebook, et cetera, are being forced to actually remove targeting capabilities because of things like GDPR and privacy lawsuits, et cetera. So your ability to go out and find more people like the ones you actually want really comes down to the data that you share to the ad platforms, as opposed to 5 years ago when it was all about your super niche targeting and ad copy. So the resulting of implementing something like this is if you were to just have if you just did this, then you would have this situation. You would have someone fill out the form and you would say, hey, ad platform, go get me more humans that look just like the one who filled out this form, which up to date has been working generally fine. When you add that quality filter in there, you're saying, hey, ad platform, this user filled out my form and was qualified. Go find more of them. So instead of getting a bunch of people who aren't qualified and a few that are, you're actually working with the machine learning and algorithms of these platforms to only tell them about the good leads so that over time they only generate you more high quality good leads. It all comes down to a data sharing perspective and making sure that the questions you choose are really binary, and it makes it very difficult for someone to answer them incorrectly and be quality, right? But working with your clients closely, you can pretty easily figure out what those are. And over time, this is where I said more lead volume helps this benefit kind of kick in faster. The more lead volume you get, the faster the algorithms learn to optimize towards that higher quality lead. But even if you have a small amount, they will still do it over time because you're only giving them data on the people that you actually want. Chose that one as the first one because it's the longest and probably most complicated, but it also can potentially have the biggest impact if you are spending, let's say, 5 figures or more in paid media for your clients. The second one to talk about, we've called the Steve Jobs because he's famous for a million things, but he's also famous for in his presentations going, but wait, there's more. And this is something to deploy if you have a client or a situation where you are advertising what we consider to be a middle of funnel asset. So these are things like webinars or white papers or some kind of content where the person hasn't said, I want to buy the thing, but they have said, I want to learn more about the thing or about the case. And a really underutilized piece of real estate on every website on the internet is the thank you pages after somebody does something where they've raised their hand, even if that isn't the ultimate thing, the demo meeting, the meeting with sales, what have you. So what we're going to propose is that you use that thank you page to help speed up your middle of funnel to bottom of funnel transition of that user that doesn't require a 23-step nurture campaign with 19 emails and a bunch of finger crossing that they remembered who you were by the end. So as we talk about this one, some pros to this and some things to be aware of. The pros are that this is certainly much simpler to implement than the one we just talked about. You're going to, for the right people, speed up your middle of funnel leads to that bottom of funnel lead cycle. And it's really low technology. You can almost always accomplish this with things you already have, a form that's already built, language that's already been written, and a page that already exists. So there's not a ton of really development or technical expertise needed to implement this. The things you'll need to know is that because you are trying to skip a step, you're trying to go from, hey, I know you just wanted this white paper, but please not talk to sales. There should be an offer and a sense of urgency that you can demonstrate that is real, that the user can understand to have them skip that step and go right to that final stage that you want. And it's also your sort of first shot at it. If they came into an asset, they really aren't probably sales ready. So you can't push too hard and make it too mandatory that they talk to somebody, but it's really a, hey, by the way, if you wanted to do this, here's the option, and it's exposing an option to them. So what does this look like in practice? So I'm going to use that Motley Fool wealth management example again. So on the left, I have a screenshot of a asset landing page that we have. So we have a white paper that we give away for 6 sources of retirement income. We ask for a first name, last name, that estimate, that qualifying question, and then their email to get it. And on the right, I have a screenshot of the thank you page. And the thank you page does 2 distinct things. So the bottom line first, it fulfills the promise. So say you wanted this book, you filled out my form, you can now have this book. Here it is. Click the read now button, it'll download, you'll get it. But what it also does is it puts an offer in front of them. It says, hey, you were interested in retirement income. Did you also know that you could just talk to somebody and get some more personalized context to this ask that you have already made? Here are some questions that our clients are asking that feel relevant to this. And if you want to, you can get connected and you can schedule a meeting and go there. Most people are simply not going to do that. They just want their read now asset. They wanted the thing they wanted in the first place. But a small percentage of people will see this and go, well, I'm already in the moment. I'm already thinking about it. I don't have anything to do for the next hour. Let me go ahead and do this and see if I can just get some more questions answered. The benefit to this is you've already gotten your conversion on the first form. You've already gotten their information and they've answered their qualifying question. You've already paid for that lead. You're not paying anything extra or really putting any extra effort into putting this offer in front of them on the thank you page. you're simply giving them one other thing to do on a page that they are guaranteed to read and pay attention to because they are expecting something from it. So even if they go through this page and read left to right, like most people do, and they read the offer and they're like, wait, that's not what I signed up for. Oh, here it is over here. You've at least exposed them to the fact that they can actually talk to somebody. They can actually buy the thing, have the demo, whatever your client's offering is. And if they're in the mood in that moment, they now can, versus it not being an option at all and you hoping that maybe they like navigate back to your homepage, then click contact sales, then fill out the form. You're removing those steps from them. So very simple. There's effectively zero downside to this because you're just simply adding something. You're not taking anything away from what you're already doing. And it can help those people who you're getting the inexpensive middle of funnel lead from to maybe make that step to the bottom of funnel thing that they otherwise would have skipped or waited weeks to consider. And the third one that we'll talk about, and we'll pause for some questions and clarifications and anything that you have, is what we just call the shortcut. And so this example, I was talking about how the offer that we're interjecting in between the I want the asset, giving them the asset, is a meeting. And in many cases, for a lot of clients who are not e-commerce, the offer in general for that thing we really want is also a meeting. It could be a demo, it could be a free trial explanation, it could be a consultation, it could be whatever, but it's usually talk to sales for 30 minutes and we'll move on. But the issue with the way that happens in most cases, or has historically happened in a lot of cases, is when a prospect wants to set a meeting and get a demo for a piece of software, the process usually looks like this. They fill out a form to set a meeting so that someone can call them and ask them a bunch of BANT questions so that they can set a meeting with the actual person who will do the demo. And because of scheduling, that could take God knows how long. Things like reschedules, people don't book up, that first call is useless, the second call is repetitive. And so we're simply pleading to anyone who is offering a meeting as their core thing to just make it easier for people to set the actual meeting in the first place. So pros and things to know. Pros of this, there are plenty of options to do automated scheduling from your form. We prefer Chili Piper. We've been partners with them for a long time. We'd happy to facilitate a relationship here to anyone who wants it, but there are others. There's HubSpot Meeting Scheduler, which pretty helps. HubSpot, I think, is free. And a few others. Because these are all off-the-shelf pieces of software, they're pretty simple to implement. They integrate with most forms that exist out there, kind of plug and play. They will do some prospect qualification, like that qualifying question we mentioned earlier, as well as lead routing if you have large sales teams for you. And the key thing is that they dramatically increase the scheduled meeting rate and the time it takes to get a prospect to actually talk to a salesperson for some relevant information. Stuff to be aware of. In all cases, it's not free. Some maybe it is, but there's probably still a freemium model, but it's really not that expensive either. You're talking 2 digits per user. It could be 30, 40, 50 bucks per user. And if you're basically making the BDRs not as relevant, skipping a whole step and increasing speed for lead, like that 30 or 60 bucks really doesn't matter. Your salespeople who you connect to these tools will need accurate calendars, though. Like if they use time blocking, for example, and they work 40 hours a week and their calendars are stuffed for 40 hours, no one's ever going to be able to schedule anything. So they will have to do a bit of calendar cleanliness so that when people want to see a date and a time to meet, there are actually dates and times to meet. And you'll want to do that kind of that budget authority need and time on the form if you can, and that qualification on the form if you can, which if you're doing play number 1 is already done. That kind of makes sure that anyone who is setting a meeting is already pre-qualified, and it skips that need for the qualification call in the middle. So the way that this can visually look, and this is an example from our own website. So if you wanted to call, with myself or Jarrett, for example, you would submit this form. And instead of submitting this form and getting a message that was like, hey, we'll get back to you and figure out if we want to talk to you or not, it just kicks you to a calendar and says, pick a date, pick a time. When the user does that, they hit submit, they get it automatically added to their calendar. We get it automatically added to our calendar. Any information they submitted in the form or the steps prior to this form are also sent. So we know who they are, what they want, what ad they saw, and we can have an actually useful call with them in our first interaction versus sending them down that long, windy BDR path where hopefully they still want to talk to us after 2 qualifying meetings and a week goes by and they forget what they clicked on in the first place. So it has made a huge difference for us individually, as WebMechanix has made a huge difference to our clients. And Frankly, it saved us a lot of headache and time for like, how do we increase the BDR qualification rates? Because it's just not really a metric that matters anymore that we get there. So I went through those slides relatively quickly, and I was a victim in high school of like nodding during the math class and being like, yeah, I totally get this. And then getting home and doing the homework and having absolutely no idea what I heard in class. So to help eliminate that for anyone here, this will also be a document that we send out to you. This is a Word doc. Everyone here should have access to it. It has everything that I just went through and some more details and actual steps for how you would implement this and some other examples for each of those plays. So that way it's a little less hypothetical and a little bit more actionable for you. Certainly there's still some things like you have to figure out how it works within your tech stack that I can't possibly know within this document. This should get you closer to 80, 90% there, whereas maybe the deck gets you 20 or 30% there. So everyone will have access to that, access to, you know, myself or Jared for questions, should you need it for implementation or clarification. But given that we went through that relatively quickly, I wanted to pause and see what questions anyone had, points of clarifications, things you'd like to spend some more time on, so that I can make sure that you're getting as much value out of these as you can.
Cool. Feel free to drop questions in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand and we'll take you off mute and chat.
While you're considering, if anyone is typing up some questions, if I were going to give you these three and tell you to do them in a particular order or a priority based on how long they take and kind of research required and this, that, and the other, I would tell you to do really backwards, 3, 2, and then 1. And quick reasoning for that: 3, once you select the platform, Chili Piper or whatever, the implementation is very, very fast. It can be done in a matter of hours in most cases, depending on what your site is built on. And that gives you the benefit of just speed to sales conversation, which is never going to hurt anything basically ever. Then if you take that and you apply that to your middle of funnel campaigns, now when you're interjecting, hey, you downloaded this asset, would you like to have a meeting? That meeting can be set quicker and you can get more value out of that meeting. And when you're doing that and you're already starting to qualify people, you're already starting to get meetings on the book. Then if you go through the effort to implement this type of algorithmic data sharing, then you really are, you're kind of stacking benefits, right? You've got quick appointment speed, you've got more leads that can feed these ad platforms, more data that could come through because you're increasing that bottom of funnel conversion rate at the back end. And now you're going to share all that data back to the ad platform. So I presented them sort of most difficult to easiest, but if you were going to implement them, I would probably go 3, 2, and then cap it off with the first. Cool. So it looks like no questions. Math homework example, if you get off this call and you're like, should have asked this, we'll make sure that you have my email, Jared's email, so you can just kind of shoot us a note if anything pops into your head thereafter. We will send out the deck. The deck has a link to that document. We'll send a separate link to that document so you have that too. And then this recording will also be included if you want to just hear it back another time. So I want to take an opportunity now to talk about really that bonus item in the agenda, the how else might we be able to help you in your lives rather than just throwing ideas over the fence and hoping that those are useful. So we are starting something called the Mechanix Club. It's a working title. Don't yell at us if we change it later. But it's essentially to help you and your business as a fractional CMO, which is different from the 3 previous ideas, which are really meant to help your clients and not necessarily you directly. So if you're interested in joining this club or group, here are the things that we're looking to provide anyone who is a part of this partnership. So the first one is we've worked with thousands of companies over the last 13 years. And so within that, we have a bunch of case studies, a bunch of business cases, a bunch of assets, a bunch of examples. And if we are to ever partner on business together, we'll give you access to all of that collateral. We'll happily co-brand it with you so that if you're working with a prospect, you're like, hey, just give me an example where you've done this before. And you've done a bunch of stuff like really close to it, but not like the perfect thing that you want to send. And maybe we do. We're happy to co-brand that with you, give you that asset, allow you to use that within your own client sales. The other is on the heels of that, if you are in a sale and you want extra help or extra firepower within that call, you can get access to our sales engineers, which are really our SMEs, our department heads who, when we're pitching a deal to a new client, really come on to talk in detail and get into the weeds with any technical prospects that we might be talking to. So again, anything that we might partner on, those people are available to come help you close that deal down, whatever it is. My personal favorite, will pay you when you close new business if we're going to work on it together. So anything that we would take as a fee out of that partnership, you personally will get 25% of that first month and 10% of months 2 and 3, just to thank you for bringing us in, even though we'll help with the first 2 boxes on here. And the third one is something that we do for a subset of our existing clients right now, but it's basically access to, for lack of a better term, beta services. So the hot thing right now is a good example of this is ChatGPT. We are currently devising a way to have a separate instance of ChatGPT, feed it something like this webinar's transcript, for example, and then we can actually train it to, based on this transcript, provide things like a blog post, a LinkedIn post, several email templates, et cetera, that require little to no editing, that we're starting to offer internally to some existing clients kind of as a test to feel it out. But anyone in this group would also have access to those things as well. If you have an interest in this, this is also a link that will take you to this page. You can just fill this form out. It's basically just going to tell you, thanks for filling out the form. We'll send you some information and I will follow up because Jarrett will be on vacation with any other relevant information about what you can do, what the details are, et cetera, if that's something that you want to explore.
Mary Beth has a question. Can't go off mute. I'm just wondering if the 3 plays you present, do you have a sense of for percent of improvement on results that they would bring?
Sure. Let's see. Percent improvement. Let me give you my best guess because caveats, right? So this one, scheduler, it depends on what percent you're looking at. If you are still if you're still tracking just this form as your conversion, like probably not much is going to change. But if you're looking at like sales accepted meetings, if that were a metric, this could be upwards of like 20 to 30% pretty immediately because you're skipping the BDR back and forth where you drop people off in the email. The Steve Jobs version, the offer that you're putting in front, this is not a huge difference. Candidly, you're not going to get 20-30% more people wanting a meeting just because you slapped in the landing page. It might only be like 2 to 5%, but it's 2 to 5% that right now is 0 and will never be more than 0 unless you give them an option. So it's really just small incremental upside for the people that are ready, but it's not going to triple your business overnight, certainly. This one could, depending on your volume. So the latest place that we have implemented this was on a client that was spending about $300,000 a month in media. They had the same, it was the same goal. They just wanted people to fill out this form, and their sales team was great and they closed people, wonderfully, but they just wanted more people that met a set of criteria, and they couldn't figure out how to do that and scale beyond their budget. So we implemented this for them, basically just added the qualifying question, layered in that filtering that we talked about here for if quality, send that, if not quality, don't send it. And last month they spent 1.7 million with actually a lower cost per lead than they were getting at 300. So that is an extreme example, right? And they had an extreme amount of volume because they were spending so much money, but that's where that could really make a huge exponential impact. We have also done this, the exact same implementation, but instead of the goal of like scaling dramatically, it was really a savings aspect that they looked at. So they, this other particular client that I'm thinking of, dropped their cost per opportunity by about 20 or 30%. And they did that in such a way that they actually lowered their paid media budget to keep their lead volume the same because they knew the quality was higher, and then they used those savings elsewhere. So it depends on how you want to look at it. This one does have the most, excuse me, potential for dramatic effect. The level of dramaticness, not a word, is based on like kind of the lead volume that you get or what your goal is, if it's really scale or if it's savings so that you can reallocate. Did that answer your question, Mary Beth? Great.
Awesome.
Any others since I went through that related?
Nothing that's come up. A lot of thanks so far.
Cool. And So we were here. If you're interested, click the link. All this information is kind of reiterated on the landing page. Whether you are interested in this or not, doesn't matter. I wanted to at least extend an offer to everyone who's here. Usually when we work with clients in really two different ways. We either have long-term retainers, 3, 6, 12 months, so on, where we do the majority of the work and act as the marketing team for clients. But we also, in a lot of cases, working with fractional CMOs in the past, haven't done those huge relationships, but we have served as like, hey, can you just check this out and tell me what is going on, what it should do from the audit or the analysis perspective? And when we do that for new prospects or clients that we don't know, we charge $7,500 to do basically a service that says, hey, we're going to take a look at whatever problem you point us at, and we'll give you all the answers about why you should this, why you shouldn't do this. Sanity check's a great way to say it. So instead of charging all of that, we're cutting 33% off for anyone who's here. Here are all the details of what this actually is. This is also on that landing page from the previous slide, but it's essentially an audit, not just off of, you know, whatever Neil Patel said the best practices for SEO should be, but instead what we've seen with over 1,000 clients that we've done these audits for. And it's an audit that will give you not just like, here's a bunch of stuff like SEMrush spits out and you go do with it whatever you can figure out, but we'll tell you what's working, what's not, what your current missed opportunities are, how everything should be working together compared to how it is, and then what the projected impact of fixing, continuing, or attacking each item are, so that you can kind of pick and choose which ones are the most important to you. So whether you choose to join or inquire about the club or not, doesn't matter. This is still available to you. Sue, I'll answer your question in 1 second. Any questions about this? If you can ask them now, you can certainly ask me individually. Like I said, you'll have my email if you want clarification, but just wanted to kind of say thank you, whether we worked with you directly or not. Folks like yourselves have been great to us over the years and wanted to at least give something back. Sue, let me read your question here. Yeah, great question. So Sue asked, aren't you still paying for the leads regardless of whether they meet the added criteria? Yes, you are. But the reason that this is beneficial is because in this example, you're paying for all the leads regardless of if they're quality or not, and you're not using anything, or you're not allowing any mechanism to try to get you a higher percentage of qualified leads. So you're paying equally as much for the qualified as you are the unqualified, but the ratio of them never gets better, or it's never proven to get better. So you might still always get 50% unqualified that you pay the same $100 for that 50% qualified cost. What we're saying is by putting that qualification question in place, and only telling the ad platforms about the users who are qualified, you are driving a higher percentage of qualified leads. So you might still pay the same $100 per lead that you were getting that you're getting now, or that you're getting in the previous example, but you're paying $100 per qualified lead and getting a higher percentage of qualified leads. So it's not necessarily that the lead cost is going to change very much. It might actually go up in some cases. But what you should see is that there's a higher percentage of qualified leads in your CRM. And because of that higher percentage of qualified, and you can communicate to sales the answer to those qualification questions, sales can better field those leads, close them faster. So you'll have things like a lower cost per sale, a lower cost per opportunity, even if the front end lead cost is actually higher. That helped clarify that. I hope.
Sue is nodding.
Awesome.
Mark has a question for your comprehensive audit offer, or comprehensive audit offer. What areas can you focus on? You mentioned SEO, for example, and what does comprehensive mean?
Great question. So the 4 areas where we would recommend us spending our time is either type of search, organic or paid social, or conversion rate optimization are the core ones. We will and can audit things like website technical pieces, or from the development or redesign perspective, but those tend to be a little less acute. From like, we identified a problem, here's the solution. So if I were going to tell you the areas that I would feel most comfortable offering it. It's either type of search, organic or paid, any type of paid social, or conversion rate optimization, the desire to get more people to fill out your form. Certainly. From a comprehensive perspective, what we mean by that is that there are, if anyone here is familiar with something like SEMrush, and I'll use this as an example as best I can, you can go onto their website, you can sign up for their service, and you can click run an audit on my website. And what it will do is it will spit out a report that just tells you things. It'll say, this is broken, that's broken, these are all concerns, and it'll just give you page after page of all the stuff that's wrong, and then that's it. They might give you a tooltip of like what to do about it, but not much. We view comprehensive from our perspective of, if you're going to tell us to go and audit your paid social, for example, we're going to look at all the things that SEMrush example would spit out. Here's all the stuff that's wrong. Here's all the stuff that we would disagree with. Here are the things that simply are broken, like, hey, this landing page doesn't even load the way that you think it does. But we don't feel good just delivering that half of something. We only feel good when we also say, because of all of these things we found, here are all the things you should do about it, and here's the order in which you should do them to get maximum benefit. And if you are going to only do a few, do these, and kind of help you prioritize. What we understand is that there are tons of marketing teams out there that are one person or two people, and they don't have 14 people to go tackle every issue at the same time. And so you need to understand, if you're going to take the time that you have, which sometimes isn't that much, and you're going to put the effort into fixing or addressing something, which things should you do first? How do you know that's going to make the biggest impact? Which things generally are unimportant? And so, comprehensive to us is, what are the opportunities, what's working and what's not? But more importantly, like, what do you actually do about them? And what are some actionable things that you can take that audit and go do right away after receiving it, versus receiving the audit, looking at it and going, oh, great, they're telling me everything's wrong, I guess I have to go pay to figure out what to do. And we'll just tell you the what to do parts. And then whether you go and handle that, great. Or, we do or someone else does, fine, but you'll at least know kind of what to tackle and what to do first. And good. I'm glad that reference landed. That was
Thank you.
risk.
All right. Any final questions or comments? Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. So like Jared said, tomorrow we'll send out all the stuff. You'll get the recording, you'll get the deck. You'll get the deck. We'll have a link to the doc and the landing page that we mentioned for the club. You'll have my email and Jared's email. Email me, since he's going on vacation, if you have any questions or clarification, or want to chat in more detail. I'm happy to make time to do that. Just big thank you to all of you. I know that your job is not easy this year, and it's not easy in general for that matter. But anything that we can do to help you, we're happy to do so.